Okay, real quick, what race or ethnicity am I giving you? Right? Take a deep, hard look. Tampoco, that's a little too deep. But I've got bushy cejas. I've got a kind of full stash. I've got a buzz cut, dark brown eyes, and a cross necklace. So what's your guess? Indian? Maybe Middle Eastern? I've gotten both. But if your immediate take is, dude, that guy's straight up Latino, why? Is it my face, my skin tone? Who else would you use as an example alongside me? Because intentionally or not, we all make snap judgments about people's race or ethnicity upon seeing them. And I'm pairing race and ethnicity together a lot like these government forms that now ask, hey, Hispanic or Latino? But that's a huge category that the United States has created that now wants to put me, who's Mexican American, alongside somebody who has a background, say, that's Argentinian or Cuban. People who've been studying race, specifically race, have said forever that this is all made up, guys. It is all a social construct. There is no singular Latino identity or image. And then there's people who say, well, if they speak Spanish and have ties to the Americas, then of course they're Latino. And then you have people who will say they're brown, so they're Mexican. But it's not the time or the place. But when there's 65 million Latinos living in the US, we can't all be Mexican or brown or Spanish speakers. So who are we? I'm Xorje Olivares, and on today's very first episode of Hyphenación, want to ask the question, who gets to be Latino? And who decides who's Latino? This is Hyphenación, where conversation and cultura meet. Now, if you clocked me and you said, now that dude is also Mexican American, good, because I'm fucking proud of that. I'm proud of being Mexican. I'm proud of where I'm from, which is South Texas. And if I have to admit, the thing that's most South Texas about me is I am a flour tortilla guy. I am team flour tortilla all the way, which I know is going to piss off a lot of people, but whatevs. And on today's show, I'm excited because each of our guests also comes from a Latino hotspot. Like my first guest, who is actor performer Ian Paget, who is the co-host of the Tres Leches podcast. He spent a lot of his time in Miami.
Mm.
So I want to ask Ian, one, Ian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hola,
And
hola, hi.
two, what is the most Miami thing about you?
Ooh. Well, last night it was my accent. Because if I'm a
When did she come out?
well, it's funny, like technically it's specifically, I'll give it to you. Hello, oh my God, how are you? That was happening a lot yesterday. Like just because I was with my best friend Juan and then Johnny, and like we're all from Miami, and then my friend Rafa was there too. And like there's just this like way that all of a sudden the L's kind of turn a little bit like that, which is crazy. But I don't, so that's like a specific thing that happened when I am around other people who make me feel like home. Like it,
Mhm.
it brings out a home in me. But my most Miami thing is, oh my God, I'm not really most of anything because I'm such a hodgepodge. I'm such a mixture of like so many things. Like I was, from the UK and this and that, blah, blah, blah. But I'd guess like the most Miami thing about me would be like my love of cafecito. Like I love cafe. It's like when I go back to Miami, I'm like, hi, mom, hi, dad. I'm going to the coffee shop. You know what I mean? And like,
Nice to
it's,
see you.
yeah,
Priorities.
you guys are here, but you're here to get me there. You know what I mean? So I'd say it would
Mhm.
be like my love of cafe would be the most Miami thing about me.
Okay. We will hold
Yeah.
space for that.
Thank you.
Also want to welcome poet and writer Maria Burgos, who was born and raised in the Washington Heights neighborhood of New York City, which we all have in common, we have since learned. But Maria, what would you say is the most New York thing about you?
Wow. I would say just be talking very fast in both Spanish and English. It's like you ask me something and I'm like, what do you need? What do you want? No, I got you. And sometimes you'll get Spanglish. And if you get it, you get it. If you don't, then context clues.
Mhm.
Duolingo.
Right. Period.
It'll all work out with the facial expressions, with the
All of
gesture,
it.
with the
Hands.
movements.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
language all in and of itself.
Yes.
Well, I
Yeah.
want to thank you both for joining me today. And I want to start by asking this question of how we each identify culturally. Because for me, if you go to my Instagram bio and pretty much every bio, I'll say puro tejano. Because yes,
Okay.
I'm Mexican American, but it's so specific to Texas and
Mhm.
like 90s Texas. So I would be wearing the Selena purple jumpsuit right now if I could,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
how deep I am in it.
Yeah.
So Maria, if you could say how you identify culturally, what would it be?
Culturally, I would say Afro-Latina. Um,
Hey.
and if you want to get specific, if people need a visual, I would say un mangú con tres golpes. Just like that.
Ooh,
Work.
With the fried cheese, the eggs, the whole thing, the onions on top. That is me. That's what you're gonna get.
Wait, what was it called? Ummangu? Is that what you said?
Yes, con tres
Ooh,
golpe. Tres
wow.
golpe is the meal when you go
Uh-huh.
to a Dominican spa. You'll order tres golpe, and you'll get
Oh,
the fried
okay.
eggs, cheese, and salami, and then you make sure you have the onions on top, so it's filling. You get a little bit of everything. You'll feel productive after and strong,
Oh my
and I
god.
feel
I
like
love
after
that we both
hanging
said a beverage and food, by the way. Like our first opening things were like
the love
immediately.
language of the Latino
Immediately.
people
You
is
said
food and
cafecito,
drink.
and
yeah,
I'm like, "Yes, cafecito immediately, no matter
it
what,
really
wherever
is.
I am, you
Yeah.
need a nice cup of coffee for
Yeah.
sure."
That's so funny.
Okay. And Ian, what would you say for you for identification culturally, what would it be?
Ooh. I was gonna guess. Sorry. No. So,
Like,
funny enough,
hmm,
with like your intro and what we're discussing today, it's like I actually think a lot of people don't even think I'm Latino,
Right.
but I'm half Honduran.
Mm.
So my mom is from Honduras, and then my dad's his parents were German. So yeah, and then being raised in Miami from like 11 and on, it's like that is a big part of my upbringing and culture or whatever. But yeah, I'm half Honduran.
nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, yes, Maria, you did use Afro Latina,
Yeah.
but for the most part, we didn't immediately say just the alone word of Latino,
Right.
Mm,
because that word really does become this umbrella term that wants to encompass everybody and anybody that might have some similarities. And
Mhm.
there's also this phrasing of the Latino community, which the community part sometimes upsets people.
mm.
But I want to ask you, Ian, about even the language of Latino community. Does it make you feel any certain way? Like happiness, joy, upset?
Um, it's funny. I've never had to, maybe more like in these last couple of years, excuse me, in these last couple of years, had to like own my Latinidad more than in the last like couple years, really, because everything is like, well, what are you? Who are there's, and then if you're in media, it's just helpful. People want to know, and like anyway. But I bring this up because I think like growing up, I was just like me, and I had like my mom. And when you're in Miami, you don't really have to say you are part of the Latino community, or like I don't have to wear the badge of that. It just like was so all around me. Jewish Cubans, like everyone was around. But that's also specific to my upbringing. And Maria, I would say the same for you. I'm guessing if you're from the
Absolutely.
Heights, like it's just
Yeah.
I don't know. You're just like, yeah, this is who we are. And I think when you step into other spaces, again, if someone's saying that, like, then it makes it feel like, oh, you're kind of putting us in a pen in a way,
Mhm.
is maybe what I could. And that's me really, like, I'm gilding that lily a little bit. But I guess like that would be my response to that, you know?
I mean, that's such a good point because, like I mentioned, we're each from these Latino hotspots. Like, I'm from the border. So 99% of the people around me were also Mexican and also look like me. And we've alluded to it a little bit, but in Washington Heights, it's very much, it's hugely Dominican.
Yes.
Most of the people there are speaking Spanish or a variation of Spanish. So when it's not until you are placed in a different environment where you realize, oh shit, like not only am I different, but I'm so different that there's another word for me.
Mm.
So I'm
Yeah.
wondering for you, Maria, about this other word, this Latino word. Um, do you feel Latino without being Afro Latino? If that
100%. I do.
okay,
I grew up in a very Dominican household. Again, I grew up in Washington Heights. So, like, salsa is my favorite genre. I grew up listening to that, bachata. There's always liveliness. Waking up at 7 a.m. and hearing your neighbors like still blasting bachata to get their day started. Like, it was very Dominican. I went to school nearby, like elementary and junior high was close by. And then when I went to high school, it's like, oh, like I'm like loud and being myself, but like other people are like, well, why is she speaking Spanish? Why I'm confused. Like I want to know more about her. Is she Latina? And it's just interesting, like to come out of your space and realize, like, oh, I may have to explain. Sometimes I choose not to, just because we should, accept people for who they are, accept that we come from different walks of life. Like Ian, he grew up in Miami, but you're half Honduran and your father has German descent. So like, this is what a lot of us are in the US. We're just mixed up with a whole bunch of different things, right?
Mhm.
So I sometimes find myself being like, you know what? Receive me how you want to receive me. But I do understand, like, oh, even for myself, just identity in general, like, okay, I am different. I've been in my own community for so long, seeing similar faces just with me, seeing people that look like Ian who are Dominican too, and just being like, oh, that is what it is. Latino, yes, no problem at all. But then,
Yeah, like no questions asked. It's like
yeah,
whatever.
it's fine.
Mhm.
Yeah. But then coming out of that space, it's like, oh, okay, maybe I do need to guide people a little bit. I don't know. I don't
It's
want to say need because I feel like we shouldn't have to hold people's hands through this.
yeah, yeah.
But
That whole knowledge of, like, the oppressed shouldn't help the oppressor, and that's
exactly.
very harsh language, but, like, what role do we have to try to educate somebody when it's our own identity and experience that's
Yeah.
at stake
Exactly.
here?
And I
Right.
think also kind of to what Maria was saying is like how much of this plays into like who I've decided to be. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
how I present is
No,
just
Mhm.
I don't
absolutely.
know. It's like
Yeah.
it's a fascinating conversation.
Ian, what would you say are some of the main things you get confused for? Because I mentioned at the top, for me,
Mhm.
it's Indian, Middle Eastern, which nothing wrong with that. I
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that those are some of the comparison points I get, but it just doesn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
So
Right.
what are some of these that you've had to field over the years?
I definitely I get a lot of European. So like
Mhm.
it's European specific. Sometimes people are like, are you Italian? Are you Jewish is even, in its own race, obviously, but like I always get like a little bit of Spanish, like, oh, are you French? Like those are kind of where it sticks. And then when I tell people I'm Honduran, if I get super specific, it always feels like they're like, oh, where like that place. You know what I mean? It is a very random country.
Like,
It's not
huh,
yeah, it's not like Costa Rica, it's
okay.
not Guatemala, it's not Venezuela. Like it's kind of like a silent little country there in its way, you know?
Right.
Ha-
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, I've gotten like everything over the pond mostly.
Mm.
Mm.
Across the
And
pond,
you
excuse me.
and you, Maria?
Wow. I've been called Ethiopian a lot. That's a main thing. They're like, oh, you have to be Ethiopian. And I've had several Ethiopian people speak to me in their dialect, and I'm like, oh, no, but thank you. I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm so flattered. Sometimes just, Black American. Some people are like, are you Puerto Rican? Are you like so many different little things? And usually it's question when I start to speak Spanish. It's when like everyone freezes and they're like, wow, your
Mhm.
your Spanish is so great. Like you have an accent. And I'm sure Ian, you get the same thing. And you're
so
like,
funny that you say that because mine because I don't look Hispanic or
right.
Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
People don't speak to me in Spanish, right? So that is not
Yes.
usually the first thing that people notice. This one's a
Yes.
gag. People ask me like, "Where are you from?" with like a little bit of like a squint in their eye when they see
Right.
me
Like,
dance.
ooh,
Oh,
that
or like the
one.
caderas are moving. There's
Correct.
something
Let me
It's
don't
here.
lie.
I wish I could say like I made that up and like that's it's literally what happens. Like
It's
I'll be
literally,
out in
yeah.
spaces and the way I move and the way I dance, people are
Yes.
like,
Just like,
"Where are you from?" That's literally the question that sometimes
Right. They're
happens.
like, those hips do not lie.
They
I
sure
That's
don't.
happened to me too, where they're like, wow, you dance.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I sure do, honey.
Yeah.
mhm. You're like, "Pronto aventuras, se me ves
Yeah.
crespo.
Oh
And
my god.
Celia
I
¿Lo
Cruz, I'm
vive?
here.
yes,
Oh my
I'm
god.
here."
yes.
I'm curious about the distinction between somebody questioning you about who you are and somebody somehow telling you, like, "No, no, no, but where are you
Mhm.
really from?" Because that's
Mm.
not a question, that's somebody telling you to correct yourself to give them the answer they want.
Yes.
So, Maria, has there been a moment
Ooh.
where you're just like, "Somebody's telling me something that I do not want to hear anymore?"
Every day. Unfortunately, still living in New York, I get it very often. I remember, for example, years ago working. I was working as a I was doing a side job with like banquet serving, and I was talking to one of my colleagues in Spanish. He was, I believe, Mexican, and we were just chatting back and forth. ¿A dónde ponemos los vasos? ¿A dónde ponemos los platos? And this man behind me who we were serving, he like waited for me to finish what I was doing and then was like, I'm so sorry. Where are you from? Because you speak Spanish so well, and my wife is Argentinian, and like, I mean, it sounds a little bit different, and I'm not sure, but it was like accusatory, very much like, did you go to
Huh.
school to learn Spanish so well, kind of?
Mm.
And I said, I'm Dominican. And granted, the proper term is Dominican American, that my parents are Dominican, but I like to be very proud and say I'm Dominican and have people sit with that. Sit with that and like hold on to that and figure it out.
Mm.
And he was very like taken aback that I was very firm and like, I'm Dominican. And he's
Mm.
like, yeah, but what? I'm like, I'm Dominican. Is there anything else I could do for you? And he was sort of just like,
I'm curious, like, what he didn't believe. Like, what was the next question supposed to like, what about my
right,
answer wasn't pleasing? Like, I'm
right,
genuinely curious, like, what he was hoping to get. Like, you
right.
know what I
Mhm.
mean? The idea in his head. And anyway, that's
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ian, what is the most recent moment where you had to force somebody to sit with your answer of like, not only am I Latino, I'm Honduran American, just bye. Like
Y
end of conversation, punto final.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
It never feels like someone is trying to, like, to
Have
out
a
me.
gotcha moment.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it doesn't, and I think that's a little bit of my own, like, the way that I walk in the world, like, a little bit of my delulu-ness of just, I'm really in charge of, like, my my energy, so, like, even if someone maybe was like, "Wait, so, like, where are you from?" I take that as, like, he's really interested. Oh, like, I don't know, to me, it's just a conversation starter, and so
Right.
and then as I get to answer and tell them, then they're, like, super surprised, which I love because 'cause I'm a show off and I love to surprise people. Like, to me, it just feeds my ego, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
take it and I take it and I absorb it in a way that feels very, like, empowering, you know?
Mhm.
Especially because I think it just, like, surprises them, and then they feel like they go, "But I wonder," this is an interesting
Mhm.
conversation, if I was in their head, I wonder if they're like, "Oh my god, that's so cool." I'm literally making something up right now, but this is fun to do hypothetical with. But I wonder if they're like, "Oh my god, that's great," because I'm white passing, and so
That's
to
a
them, they're like, "Oh, you're white
okay.
passing. That's so look at my god, that's amazing. You're
Yeah.
Hispanic." And I'm like, "Yeah," they never say that, but, they're like, "Oh,
Right.
that's so it's cool about you." I wonder if
Yeah.
that's, like, a thing or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm, again,
If
building a
if
lily
it's a
there.
if it's a fun form of the flavor where you get to experience other Latinidad with all of the, like, weird baggage that comes with color.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, something
Yeah.
that I have dealt with my entire life, especially leaving my hometown of Eagle Pass, Texas, is,
Yeah.
"Oh, this dude's brown, can't really hide." In Mexican saying, it's like el nopal en la frente, where you have the cactus so big on your forehead, you can't hide that you're Mexican.
yeah.
Yes.
I know that my nopal is quite big, and
Mhm.
I've found navigating that my entire life very interesting, and just, like, knowing the clues that you give off, and at some point being appreciative of those clues because they can be kinda fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it just hit me. One of the other things that I think is the most obvious thing about me is my queerness, is, like, that I'm gay.
Mhm.
It's just always been I think maybe that's another reason why my Latinidad has never been a thing that, like obviously, white passing, blah, 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 but the most obvious thing about me is, like, that's a gay person. I've just never really been able to hide it or, like, I wasn't able to be I wasn't that person in high school who, like, got to say I was straight and people bought it and, like, it just wasn't like that for me. I was always kind of, like, authentically me, in a great way. I went to performing arts high school that, like, allowed that to be, and I had friends around me who I felt supported by. So I think that has been the first thing that is sort of like the that's like my color. My color is my gayness. You know what I mean?
So I wanna get a little bit deeper into this notion of Latinidad and others' perception of our identity, and I'm gonna do so by sharing this story real quick. So when I was a freshman in high school, my band took a trip to Disney World from fucking South Texas. We took a charter bus all the way to Orlando, which
That's so
I don't
funny.
suggest. It
How long
was
was
like,
that ride?
girl, it was a day and a half, fucking baby wipes the entire
What?
time. We had to
No,
we had to do what we needed to
Dios mío.
survive. We were poor border kids. We couldn't fly.
Oh my
We had to
wow.
Ooh,
pay for a charter bus. And so if that
Fun.
wasn't bad enough, after
yeah.
having been on a charter bus for a day and a half, we arrive at the happiest place on earth and we're in line for the Dumbo ride. And I was the designated leader for some reason. And so we're in line and the attendant asks like, "Hey, how many people are in your team so we can like set you all up together?" And me, trying to be a good leader, I turn around starting to count people, but I think he mistook what I was doing. So he said, "Oh, uh, cuantas personas
What?
grupo."
Oh my God.
And
En
the
las
fact that this is
escuelas.
en la biblioteca, la azul,
Ay, ay, ay.
like, and the fact that this happened 20 plus years ago and it's still not haunts me, but like it still is front of mind for me to remember,
Yeah.
says that how people receive us is really critical.
Yeah.
So I'm curious for you, Maria, if you have a moment, like a standout moment for
Yes.
you where someone was like, this is who I think, or this is my assumption of you right off the bat.
Yes. This one's very interesting. So we touched a little bit about colorism in Latinidad and even presenting. So for the longest, my I wore my hair straight and I had a certain aesthetic to me just because of course in a lot of Hispanic households you feel like you have to present a certain way to be known as Latina or Latino.
Mm.
But then I went through a transition where I went natural and this is my hair now. And I moved back into my childhood apartment because rent control in New York. I mean,
Really smart
um,
about it.
a lot of my neighbors that saw me grow up, they would always speak to me in Spanish. They know me, they know my mom, they know my family. So they always spoke to me in Spanish. And my neighbor, who hadn't seen me in a while and saw the change, was speaking to me in English as if like he was meeting me for the first time. So he was like, "Oh, how are you, my friend Maria? You look good." And I was like, "¿Cómo está vestido? ¿Se siente bien?"
Uh-huh.
And he
Uh-huh.
was still like English, and I was like, "This is a very weird exchange." Like
Oh, so he continued in English even
yes,
after you addressed him in Spanish.
yes. So it was kind of like, okay, clearly you don't know how to receive me right now because I don't know. I guess the change
Interesting.
somehow like made you feel like, okay, she's not Latina anymore.
But that's so
Mhm.
interesting that, like, you're straightening your like,
Right,
that the straightening of the hair to me would be like, whatever it's hiding more of your culture and who
right,
you are, and then to go
right.
more to your naturalness, and then for him to speak English, that feels a little backwards.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
curious.
yeah. It's interesting, right? You're like, you would think
Mhm.
with the straight hair, you would not, you would be like, oh, she's not. Cause I feel like I look way more Latina now than ever.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in certain communities where the beauty standard is a certain, or they want it to be a certain thing,
Mm,
um, that's why I mentioned colorism. Like in my
right,
neighborhood,
right.
I
That's
did grow
yeah,
up with a lot of girls that were lighter than me and had like the very long hair and the light eyes.
right,
So I felt different, but not really because I also saw me in the community. But
right,
Mhm.
when I made this change, I when he yeah, it was a very interesting moment. I was standing there like, this is very uncomfortable, but
right.
okay.
And I think it's so interesting how many like, who exactly is okay with putting you in an uncomfortable position and
Right.
being okay to stand in this discomfort with you?
Yes.
And, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, there's a weird ownership that needs to be taken in that. But Ian,
Yes.
do you have a similar situation where, especially in the line of work that you do, where somebody clocked you or made you feel differently about how you actually are in the world?
I mean, that it hasn't happened in that instance, like the way Maria just described, but, like, I would say it's happened in a way that, like, the work I get. So, like,
Mhm.
I I bring this example up because it's like it was the first time I noticed it, but, like, I got to do West Side Story when I was right out of college, and I was and if you don't
That's
know the
amazing.
show, it's like Sharks and Jets, Puerto Ricans against the Americans. Um, and I was cast as one of the Jets on the American side. And one of the weirdest things about being in a show like that, where it's about two gangs who are against each other and when, like a completely different culture, this and that, is like when we would do dance at the gym, I the whole time was like, I should be on that side with the sharks. And I bring this up because like I think sometimes I again, I love how I've experienced the world and all of that, but like I have had a little bit of like a resentment towards like, I don't know, the ether around just like, oh, like because my last name isn't Ramirez, which is if I went with
Mhm.
like my mom's maiden name, Ian Ramirez, I think would automatically change how people, like you said, receive me. Um, and and so like yeah, it's I think it's the opposite. It's the I wish I was seen more Latino than I am, um because yeah, I don't know if that answers your question because
And no, it does. And I will say that for a lot of us, this idea of what Latinidad is and who is Latino is about media representation and the narratives that are there. And unfortunately, kind of going back to the face and the name that I have, I remember when I was in college and I was studying broadcast journalism, that all of my professors immediately when I was getting ready to go to into the workforce, they said, "So you're doing Telemundo, right? You're doing Univision?" And I was like, "My Spanish is not that great," but just the implication that if I was going to be successful in this field, I was immediately going to have to go to the Latino side of things.
mm,
So I'm curious, starting with you, Ian, about just when somebody does recognize that you are Latino, the more typecasting aspect of it.
I think that's why I'm really excited this to have these conversations, is because I don't think there's enough story and storytelling being told of like the white passing Latino, like or like that it
Just
comes. Yeah,
the
it's just
spectrum in
it comes
general
in
of
The
different sets.
Latino.
variation.
Yeah,
Mhm.
There's so much. Like
it's
we don't look like one thing, and
yeah,
accept that. Accept it.
yeah, and that because I don't have that last name, does that mean I don't get to tell my version of
Right.
like like Latin story, which is very much embedded in my life story? You know what I mean? And yeah,
Exactly.
it's I just think like I think those stories just need to start being made. I need to make them for myself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like having
Mhm.
these
Yeah.
conversations is really huge. Like the more I talk about it, I'm like, it really isn't apparent. Like you need, if you don't have the last name, if it's not so obvious, because people like to be spoon fed. And I get it. We just live in a world where it's like we label and it's easy. Like, who are you? Tell me. You know what I'm talking about? Like we have to
Right.
like see it. You have to
Yep.
prove it to me. Prove me the thing you are. And it's like,
Right.
okay, but it's deeper than that.
Right.
It's not as obvious as that on some of us, you know? Anyway, I don't know if I answered your question, but
No, you did it, and I love that you talk about it's about the stories that we make and the stories that we write, and Maria, as a writer who incorporates a lot of your identity in what you do and in a lot of into your performance, was that an easy decision from day one?
Absolutely. In a way, because again, growing up and getting older, I think Ian mentioned this, you get older and then that's when you notice that you are a little bit different because you're a little outside of your community. I was so tired of like fighting people on my own identity. And I want to talk about that all the time. And Ian is bringing up so many good points where, like, what is a Latino to you? Why do we have to live within the identity that someone made up for us? Like
mm,
in movies, in novelas that my mom watches, for the longest, I'm like, oh, are these white people like, you know, acting like Mexicans and it was actually Mexicans, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? But I'm like, but I meet Mexicans and they look like a variation of different things. I meet South Americans, I meet Dominicans, I meet Puerto Ricans, and I see a spectrum of different people. So when I do get met with the question or when I met with like the scrutiny of like, are you sure? I'm like, well, what am I supposed to look like to you? Because apparently you have the definition in your dictionary of what I'm supposed to look like.
mm,
And like touching on a little bit of acting that I've done before, um I always get met with like not looking Latina enough, and to them it means the straight hair. I have to be maybe a little light skinned. I have to have certain features, and to me that's confusing because I'm like, what? I'm again, I have met people. There are people in my family that look like Ian, and to me, I immediately meet them, and I'm not
I need to
seeing
meet
like
them.
right.
I need to meet them.
It is
I don't
Ian.
right.
Surprise.
Ian is my cousin,
Oh my
and
god.
he can really be my cousin, and
Oh my
that's
god, what if this was like a find your roots type
oh
of
my god,
23
that'd
y
be
situation?
yo. On this episode, 23 y yo.
right.
No kidding.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
so in my work, I always want to be proud and I always just want to speak to the person that is trying to figure out like
Mhm.
what like they don't feel Latino enough or they don't feel American enough or whatever it is. It's like you are a hyphen and that is okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for the callback to it is. It's all about
True.
hyphenated identity.
Yeah.
We've been talking about present. I do want to talk about future and
Mm.
about what we think the evolution of Latino identity will look like and how it will feel. And I'll say that I do like that right now there's a lot of plays on the word Latino, Latine, Latinx, and I just for me I'll say it's all about preference, whichever you prefer, whichever you like. No one is forcing a word on you. It's just a matter of like, hi, see me and include me.
Mhm.
Um, but how do you feel, Ian, about the just the direction we're going when it comes to terminology? And do you think there'll be another word that will eventually be used to bring us all together?
Such a good
I
question.
it is a good question because I won't lie, a little bit of like an eye roll there for me is like there are so like all the terms, all the Latine, the Latinx, and that I'm just like I had a hard time with that of just kind of understanding. Maybe I didn't understand why it was started or formed in the first place, and that's my bad. But like, um, at the end of the day, I don't like it. It's no skin off my back, but I think if it's helping more sex, SECTSs, like version, like groups
Mhm.
in within our community to feel included, then like fine, I get it. You know what I mean? But I get to comment on it. You know what I mean? And be like, why are we? You know what I mean? It's just
Right.
it's like we're just trying to please so many people. There's a little bit of that, and like the comedian in me is also just like there's so much jokes there, but all in all, it's inclusive, and like I think I just wish we had like one word. It was just like, let's just have the one word to it to make it simple for everybody. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't know. I get a little like, can I say that? Can I not? About like
Right.
something that seemed so simple to me before, but I don't know. That's my experience.
So of all the words that have ever been used, Hispanic, Latino, Latina, Latinx, what insert whichever one that we've now heard. Which is the one that you think is the most appropriate for you?
Ooh, I think for me, well, I used to say I'm Hispanic, and then I was taught like that necessarily that means a little bit more that you have like a Spanish heritage or that it had something to do with like like Spain and slavery and all these things. And I was like, oh, okay, so I
Yeah.
guess not that. So I would just say like I'm Latino. You know what I mean? I'm like that's it. It seems the easiest.
Okay.
Half
And
Latino. You know?
Yeah.
for you, Maria?
Latina always. But I understand Latine. Um, so I try to be inclusive, and I when I say it, I'm making sure like this is not excluding anyone. Like I'm just
For
proud.
for
Mhm.
purposes of this moment, and honestly, like a little brush up
Yeah.
for me, what does Latine, why is Latine, and then why is Latinx? Like, I would love a refresher.
Yeah, so the idea is that Spanish is just such a gendered language where everything is
Yeah.
either masculine or
Oh, okay.
feminine with the Latino, Latina, so very J-Lo, like mi gente Latino, which is wrong, J-Lo. But just gotta get in there. But because of the gendered language, for the folks who don't identify with either of the binaries of masculine or feminine, they wanted something else.
Okay.
And so traditionally in Spanish language, the E is used for gender neutrality, but also in certain circles, the X. So it's pretty much interchangeable, the
I
E and
see.
the X. They
Got it.
serve the same purpose, which is trying to show people that it's neither masculine or feminine.
Got it.
Which is why sometimes I just like to use the word Latinx because I feel more queer than gay, even though
Oh,
I'm very much a gay person.
I see what you
But it's about the sexual gender identity journey mostly.
got it.
I kind of want
Which
to end
is
because we're
another
talking
conversation in itself, being
it.
Latino and queer.
Yeah. Well, now
There is.
maybe my answer kind of changes, and to own that, it almost feels
Ooh.
like with more of the knowledge that you just kind of shared, I go, oh, like, yeah, I'm Latino, but like there is this other side of me, and the queer, and the gay aspect, like, oh, like I understand why people want to take ownership of all of that, all of what
Yeah.
they are, and not just that they're man, woman, or just Latino. It's like I okay, so for that, thank you for explaining that. That makes it,
Mhm.
yeah, okay.
Well, I want to end by asking each of you, what's your favorite part about being Latino? And I'll say that for me, there's something beautiful about just hearing Spanish and
Mhm.
understanding either all of it, a little bit of it, just
Mhm.
having that like, oh shit, like this is our little secret language. I mean, it's not a secret language. Billions of people talk Spanish, but that we have this
Like this intimacy that
energy.
happens, this like
Yes.
little,
Yes. There's something
yeah.
beautiful about that communication.
It's
So I'm wondering for you, Maria, what is your favorite thing about it?
Ooh, I was gonna say la comida, but I would like to say always la comida. From any Latino communities, countries, is the food is always gonna hit. It's
mhm.
always gonna hit. There's always gonna be a special dish. But I will also say it's just our spiciness to show up in the world. Like we show up. We always show up. We always like, whether we don't present however we're supposed to present, there's something about us that another Latina person would be like, that is my people right over
Yeah,
there, and I'm gonna go
Mhm.
chat with them.
yeah.
So, yeah, I would say our spicy.
I
Mm.
like our spicy. Ian, what is yours?
Um, I would say there's an immense amount of heart that I feel like, and when you ask like what's my favorite part, I think about like my mom a lot, right? And like because she to me is she's like my access to that every day. She's the, and so she, and the way she, and my aunts and mi tias, and like my Latin side of the family, there's just such a, a heart for like you are always family, and that's how I feel
Mhm.
whenever that's how I felt speaking to both of you, that like immediately there's just this shorthand, this like way that we get each other. um so I guess it would be like the heart of the community.
Mhm.
Mm.
But I want to thank both of you again for joining me for this really fantastic in-depth conversation about identity. And for any of you who are watching who want to know how to follow each of my guests, just be sure to go to the show notes. And I'll also put a link for Tres Leches, which is the podcast that Ian co-hosts. And if you want to get a hold of us, also information will be there. If there's a topic you want featured in Hyphenación, we are all ears. But until next time, peace.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.